Welcome to another episode of No Mud No Lotus, and here at Muddy Lotus Recovery, where our mission is to bridge the gap between recovery from any disordered trauma or life experience to self-management. MLR envisions a structured support community for intentional peer support, creative arts, and awareness, where families and survivors can exist and survive well. I'm the founder and host, Alison Drougel. These past couple of years, they've been a doozy for everybody, not just those in recovery. So, like most people, I've also struggled, and through that, though, it's also brought about personal growth and some much needed attention to the mental health field. So, through that, we developed this podcast, and we do not shy away from topics that have been often stuffed down, not talked about, and it's time that we talk about them. And one of them today is New Year's resolutions. So we always at this time of year give something up. And instead, this year, we are excited to launch a campaign where instead of giving something up, we decided to bring about, highlight, and emphasize what's already good about you, about me, about everybody out there, because it's time to stop trying to change ourselves, and it's time that we just emphasize what's already there. So instead of New Year's resolutions, we're going to focus on our self-care and positive self-talk. So I'm going to bring on some of our staff members. We have two of them today, and we're going to chat about New Year's resolutions in general, and we're going to talk about positive self-talk in our campaign. So here they are. Welcome to the stream. So first we have Evie Murphy, and she is the owner of Evie Make Gifts, and has been working with us on our sober and sassy line, but she has a ton of wonderful gifts that she's been working on all year, especially for Christmas. So it's been quite a busy season for you, I know. So thank you for taking time when you probably are exhausted for having this conversation with us. Thank you so much, Evie.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And then we have Jaylynn. Struth is a digital marketing student at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, and she brings her talents in social media, business, and marketing, and personal experience with mental health as well. So welcome. She has been a staff member since the beginning. So thanks for being here today.
I'm so excited.
All right. So we are going to talk about our campaign, but we can't really do that without also talking about New Year's resolutions. So the reason this came about, as you guys know from listening to the last podcast, we had Patrizia Jesu on here, and we got to talking about how to prepare for the holidays. And at the end of our conversation, it came up about New Year's and resolutions, because often when and we were talking about eating disorders and substance use disorders in particular, but we did talk about how for everybody, holidays are abundance, and then you give everything up. So what do you guys feel, what is your use for holidays versus this time of year? Like, how do you feel now that it's January 1st? What's your usual thing? How about we start with you, Evie?
So this time of year is usually my wind up down before I pick up. Holidays, Christmas is usually a really big time for us. I had my oldest son who lives out of state now was home, so we had to adjust to being a family of 5. So we've taken the last few days to readjust to being just a family of 4 again. And kids are getting ready to go back to school. And so actually the next few days is kind of going to be my downtime and set some goals for the next year. I'm not a huge New Year's resolution person. I have in the past, but I do find that they're really hard to kind of stick to sometimes, when you don't achieve them and then you just feel let down. So I look at it a little bit differently. So I just try to focus on, the things that I do want to accomplish, not comparing them to things that I may not have been doing or need to work on or things like that. So I think the end result may be similar, but I think just the way I approach it for my own mental health is a little bit easier to set a goal rather than think that there's something that I need to fix or change from what I was doing the previous year.
That's a really good point, because just because we say we're going to focus on, and I like that positivity of focus on setting goals, we're not saying in our campaign that you can't have goals. We're not saying that, all right, everything's awesome about me, I'm not going to change anything, and I'm not going to strive for anything anymore. So I'm glad you brought that up. So setting a goal and having that positive momentum is definitely different than saying, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to finish X amount of work always. I'm going to work, 20 more hours a week. I'm going to write that 500-page book. I'm going to, and that's what we tend as humans to do, is to set this goal that is so far in the future that it's really hard to obtain. So that is a really a good way of looking at it, and reminding us that goal setting doesn't have to be that way. We'll come back to that idea as well. So Jay, let's hear, what does your usual New Year's look like?
Yeah, so I mean, like Evie said, the holidays are always so just go, go, go. Especially like for me, my parents are separated, so I have holidays here, holidays there. Going to my boyfriend's, it's always just like an on the go. And like sometimes it's even overwhelming because like you don't even feel like you get to enjoy the holidays. So it's like when New Year finally comes, you're like, oh, like fresh start, fresh, every New Year, new me kind of thing. But I've never really looked at it like that. I've kind of always not really enjoyed it because I think like just the New Year's resolution itself has such like a negative stigma, especially nowadays. Like everyone like thinks, oh, it's a new year, fresh start, which is a good thing. You should find things that you can go and, improve or, just take it and do a little bit better. But I always feel like it becomes, like Evie said, just so overwhelming, and kind of how you were saying, like people just, let's make a goal to, write a novella by the end of the year, like something super intense. So this year specifically, I looked at it just in specifically a self-care kind of way. I was like, I want to spend just 30 minutes a day just before bed, like reading a book or journaling or just doing something for me, instead of like, oh, I need to eat healthier. Like every year it's the same kind of thing. So, and I think also looking at it more in like a SMART goal type of way is a lot better, because you're not doing that, a year span, a year goal. Yeah, you should have those, but it's so overwhelming when you hit the end of the year and you're like, oh, I didn't do any of it. So I like to try to break it down just into smaller little things, and not looking at it as like, oh, a new year, I'm going to change everything about my lifestyle, because it's, not realistic. So
you used some language that maybe not everybody else would possibly know. So can you tell us what a SMART goal is? And we can kind of, because we're already talking about that a little bit, just not naming it.
Yeah, so SMART goals are, now I'm like on the
I'll help you. I know, together we will do it. I don't remember either. That's okay. We know in general what they mean. So we're good.
So it's specific, measurable, attainable, SMART, realistic, and but time
bound.
Yes,
time bound. Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I learned it, but yeah.
So
time sensitive, time out. Yep.
Yeah, making a goal that fits into those categories. That way, for example, like you're not just saying I want to lose 40 pounds because it's such a common one. You're saying maybe I want to, walk more every day outside, or something. Like it's more specific, like it said, timely, everything that was in those 5 things. That way it's not such a broad and overwhelming goal.
Yeah, that makes sense. So kind of just like that acronym of SMART is just, it makes it so that you can, if you don't have to remember each letter as we're talking about, because in general you know what that means, right? It's something that that's obtainable and that you can do, and not quickly, that's not necessarily it, but kind of, that in the long run, you're not looking 20 years down the road, you're looking something that is more in the near future. Anything you want to add to that, Evie, because you seem to be on that as well, and you were describing it when you were talking anyway. Same thing.
I didn't want to get into that necessarily, but yes, definitely SMART goals. I use them in all sorts of different facets of life, not just personal or raising kids, work, and school, when I was back in school. So I definitely think that it's something that you can apply to any sort of anything that you want to focus on. So I love the flexibility of that. It's not going to pertain to just one thing. Like you can apply it. But yeah, I like probably the time bound, and how I learned it was time bound, but that it's, it's something that you can take pieces and break off. It's, I think being able to portion some goals is a lot easier. Just like Jay had said, 40 pounds, that's, to me, would be very, very overwhelming. So I feel like being able to piecemeal some things that you want to work on, for myself last year, and I want to continue doing this year, was more time to read, more time to just do some things for myself that I had put down because I was, busy with other things or didn't find the interest in those. So that was one of the things when you were asking about, New Year's resolutions. They may not only be starting doing something new, it may be continuing to do something that you've done well in the last year. And I feel like resolutions don't have the flexibility for that mindset. So looking at, hey, I did, like for me was, I think you saw me post reading goal that I had last year. And I'm like, all right, I want to try to do this again or more or differently this year. So being able to look at what have you done well and build on it or continue doing. So I feel like the SMART goals, they're flexible and they can be applied for different, different places in life that you are, not just one age group or one demographic or one gender or anything like that.
Yeah, agreed. And I have them scrolling around the bottom now. That's some quick typing. Like, I'm gonna spell something wrong. Right. Now I'll hide them. They're getting a little annoying, but
now you all know.
Now you all know. These are the SMART goals. I should have put that on there too. Okay. No, that's great. And so let's talk about our campaign just a little bit as it pertains, to everybody, not just survivors. So we have several things going on at Muddy Lotus, and so there's the 365 Days of You challenge, which I want to just explain just a second. I just kicked it off yesterday, which was social media based. So that's my personal. I had a column with Muddy Lotus and did a vlog. And this year I decided that my vlog was going to be focused on this challenge that I made for myself. So it's based on this year for Muddy Lotus. We wanted the year of you, where it was self-care and focusing on what's already awesome about ourselves instead of New Year's resolutions. So we already knew that. But I have a journal here that it's called the Awesome Journal. And you grade yourself every day in the journal. You either give yourself, and that sounds harsh, right? That sounds like I would never want to do that. You give yourself an A-, an A, or an A+. And so at first, okay, and it's kind of like, well, what does that matter? You would still be thinking an A- is bad, an A and A+, right? But you feel good because it's an A, and also you have to journal then only positive things that defend that A. So it allows you to still discuss kind of like the negatives, not negatives. It still allows you to give room for the days that you do feel poopy, but so you can give it that A-, but you're still discussing what was awesome about that day. So even when you feel awful, there's something that happened in that day that you can be grateful for, I guess. And Jay and I have had this conversation a lot about gratitude journals, and she's contributing to gratitude prompts this year and is big on that. So it's kind of like that. So for that and Be Real is the other thing that inspired me. I like Be Real. I could not keep up with Be Real, but the app where you take a picture in front of you and take a picture behind you at the same time every day, which I think is a great concept. And I like that it doesn't use filters and whatnot. So this is kind of putting all that together. I'm going to do my vlog. My first one was a little long, but like today was just, I'm going to do it as either a vlog or pictures. Like I'm going to do it as long as I do some word or something about myself every day. I'm good. And if I forget, you know what? I'm going to keep going till the next day. So the one for, we lost Jay for a second. I don't know what happened. She might have lost the internet for a sec. Oh, she's back.
I don't know what happened either.
That's okay. I was just going to take you out and bring you back in. So anyway, the challenge is something good about yourself every day, 365 days a year. And so I started with I'm a creative force, or I think I'm a storm. I created a storm. And then today I was not having it earlier. And because I'm nervous about going back to school. I'm always nervous about going back to school. It's that transition. And my daughter is also going to go back to college. And so things are going to change again. I don't like change. So I was sitting here in my office and I looked down and I saw the beautiful sticker where'd it go? It's here somewhere. It's right here. And like, I didn't want to do it. And so I was just like, put it on my face. And then it made me, so then I journaled about it afterwards, like it helped. It really did. So that's kind of the purpose of it. So those are the two, kind of sides to it. Some days you're going to feel like it. Some days you're not going to feel like it. And the whole point is fake it till you make it. That's actually a skill in DBT for recovery, if we want to talk a little bit more recovery based. And I guess that's what I'll ask you guys for a second. That do the opposite. That's the DBT skill. Do you have any like experience with times in your life where you faked it till you make it, or done the opposite and that got you through some times, or anything along those lines? Or do you think, or somebody else, doesn't have to be you? Evie, do you want to start us out, or either one of you have one that just comes to mind? You can jump in.
I do. I kind of want to piggyback a little bit off of what you were talking about, your Be Real, which I know is a little bit harder that you said, that one, the way journaling and whatnot, but it does kind of actually line up with something that I'm working on to release. It's Be Real, Not Perfect. And it's something that I have struggled with, as being, super organized and wanting to be that, perfectionist. And it's just like, sometimes, you feel like you're not being real or genuine, and that vulnerability that comes with that. And so the fake it till you make it, I have struggled with that, even growing up. I remember talking with my mom about that. We kind of at this point call it like our clown faces, act like everything's fine. And while it did help me push through a lot of things, I feel like, especially for my own children now, I feel like they deserve to know that there's so many different levels of how you achieve goals and what to do with that. So I feel like for myself at this point in my life, just the fake it till you make it does not work for me. I feel like with the longer that I've done that, I end up not benefiting from that. Just I feel like to me it's hiding, what I'm going through. So I've actually had a lot better luck just being able to talk through things, even like how you were vulnerable a few minutes ago and you're like, I was not having an earlier today and this is what I did, and then you focus on what was your solution and whatnot. So I love that. I love that idea. It's actually probably more in line with how I do. Some days you don't even want to admit it. You just push through. But I feel like mine is probably only a few days. And then finally I'm like, okay, if this is whatever's going on hasn't resolved itself in a few days, then let's be real. Let's figure out, what we're going to do. And sometimes it's troubleshooting. Sometimes it's brainstorming or having a roundtable like this podcast to bounce ideas off to be able to move forward. So maybe 20 years ago, maybe, there was a lot of that. At this point, it doesn't. I'm like, I just need to move forward and show the realness of it. Because I do think even going from, so my oldest son to my youngest son are 19 years apart, started all the way over. And so one thing that I've noticed is how I deal with, conflict or, disappointment and things in life is very different from my oldest son to my youngest son. And it's part of it is learning. So I feel like my oldest son probably got a lot more of that fake till you make it. And mom, everything's fine. We'll do it. We're resilient and, all those strong words that you do want to think of yourself as, but, you struggle by yourself, and I feel like my perception of what Muddy Lotus is trying to do is that it's building that community, that you don't have to do these things by yourself. And so do we have to fake it till we make it? Can we lean on each other and lift each other up? I feel like that's a lot more of the message that you're putting out into our community, which I love. And so I'm going to go out there and say, yeah, we don't have to fake it till we make it, because, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, right along that point, I'm gonna be giving out. People are gonna have a hard time coming up with 365 things. Okay, that's one thing. And so I was kind of coming up with some different things per month to kind of like a theme or something, and as I was doing that, some of the different things that came up, and it was kind of like today's, that there, and even the first day I said creative storm. Sometimes I come bulldozing through with creativity, okay, and that can sound negative as well, right? Every quality that I think you have, or every struggle that you have, even, or from your past, I think has two sides to it. Like, I don't even want to call it positive negative, it just is. And I really think that personally, that it's good if we get away from the positive negative. So I don't want to convey or misconvey that I think that everything is awesome. I do, however, think that when you are in that crisis management moment, like emotional regulation moment, that skill of do the opposite, so that 30-second one time a day type of a situation, I think that experiment part of it is important for you to stop every day and say, I'm gonna do this every day, just like a gratitude journal. Jay, you're offering the prompts. That's another thing, so we'll talk about some of the other things we're going to do for the year of you. We were going to focus on gratitude as well, and then we've got these self-care bloom workshops that we're going to do, and some other community efforts and coaching efforts where we'll get down and dirty, and through these podcasts really be real, like you're talking. And I really do think that even the things we're saying are awesome, they have other sides to them, and I think that's the biggest message that we can spread out there. But so everything that everybody is looking at for, when you do resolutions, we're talking about New Year's resolutions, and you're like, I want to change this, I want to change that, I wish I could do this. Like, just look at it, and I wish I didn't have this part of me. Look at what you do have, and also, things you don't like about yourself. Look at the other side of it. Like, there's really just like two sides of everything. Jay, what do you think about I forgot what the original thing was. That's what I just did. Just went on a little tangent right there. No. I want to go, I probably changed the subject, but I really like where we went with this. So what do you think about the whole, like, be real idea? If you have, somewhere else to go with it, you can, but
because when you were talking about the fake it till you make it, I can't say that. I mean, I'm sure I've done it, like going out in front of friends, like, and you're not feeling like it, like, obviously, like, there's times where you're not feeling great, but you have to put on that little show or that little mask or whatever you want to say. But I don't think it always is a negative if you're, like you said, in a moment. And I think positive talk is so important. My mom growing up was such a positive in, like, I used to get told a lot, you're so negative, quit being so negative. And I think now that I'm old enough to realize, like, wow, I do say a lot of negative things. Like, the past year, like, I've sat down and realized, like, why did you say that? Like, that's not necessary. So I'm like, Mom, you're right. So here you go, Mom, you're right.
It's on record.
But I think that's, like, the main thing for me with, like, the whole fake it till you make it. Like, there's going to be times and situations where you don't want to do things you don't want to, and you're going to have to, and that's okay. But like Evie was saying, I don't think it's, like, a goal. Like, like you said, every time you go out or do something, you shouldn't be putting on that mask or being a different person. But I think there are times it's needed. But to me, the whole idea of, like, the be real and all of that, I love, like, the idea of the app, that specifically. But I think now just coming away to college has kind of opened my eyes more to that, like, realness aspect, because you can tell when people aren't, being, like, their true and self. And I'm not like that. I want to be my authentic self, because I feel like if you're getting that energy from me that I am authentic, you're going to either like me for who I am. And if you don't, then that's not, I'm not going to be someone who I'm not. So that's how I feel about that. And then just the positive stuff, the positive talk is kind of my main thing that I find really important in life now. Because like I said, my mom grew up always telling me, like, look at the positive. Like, there are so many other things that could be going wrong, or so many other things that, you know, could be different. And so I think nowadays I'm just looking at, like, why, if I say something bad about myself, like, oh, I don't like how I look, be like, okay, but what did you do, or what did you do today that was so good? Like, looking at something instead of just looking at all the negatives all the time, flipping it and finding a positive in the situation is kind of where I'm at now, at like where I am now in my life is kind of what I'm focusing on. So
Yeah.
that wasn't the really big solid answer, but
No, it was. We all came back to like kind of that power of like,
yeah.
So we talked about self-talk, we talked about the power of positivity, but we also talked about the power of authenticity.
Yeah.
And just that this is hopefully, or we're trying to build anyway, a place for people to be their authentic selves and to be able to feel safe doing that. And you know, the holidays can be really great and can be a time for all of that going on, but it can also be a really lonely place for a lot of people and a lonely time for a lot of people. So so coming into the new year, let's hope that people are going to feel that they can find a community here, where they can be a part of something great and something positive, but also something authentic, and
Yeah.
doesn't
And
have
around
to.
what, like the same type of people who want the same
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah. And they don't have to be any certain thing.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be have a mask on all the time either.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a commercial break to announce a few things that some of like our different sponsors have going on. And before I do that, Evie, is there anything that you wanted to mention from Evie Made Gifts that's coming up, or did you just want to tell us about what it is?
So I'm going on year 3, so it's a 3-year with an official name, I guess. So have things in my Etsy. That's usually been like seasonal. So I think one of my things I want to focus on is have things available year round, because I feel like I found what I can have on there. So much of what I do is customizable, and so it's hard to photograph and, you know, or their gifts, you know, and things like that. So I did, you know, those miniature book ornaments were a lot of fun. So I think as far as my Etsy, I'm going to focus on a lot of bibliophile gifts. So I have some other fun little things coming out with that there. And I'm going to start Valentine's Day is obviously only like 5 weeks away. And I think for me, that's one of the, I do love Valentine's Day, but I love Valentine's Day. And so I'll be offering things for that, and like boxes. So you can send, you know, little gift boxes to friends and things like that. Because I do feel like even for the holidays, when we do gifts exchanges with our girlfriends, it was just little stocking stuffer things, you know, those, whether it's a really fun nail polish color or things like that. Like, I feel like gifting doesn't have to be this huge, over the top, super expensive thing, but just those things, you know, that show that something made this other person think of you. And so I'm going to be focusing more on that. I still love all my customs, but a lot of that's behind the scenes, and I don't get to post a whole lot of that. So just having, you know, things that can be posted on, you know, the Etsy and things like that. So yeah, Valentine's Day, and then more bibliophile fun stuff coming up.
Okay, and you're also on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Yeah, I'm in all of them. Yeah.
You're everywhere.
All of things. Not ready to have my own standalone website. I feel like that's a commitment that I'm not 100%. But I work year round. Someone's like, "Oh, are you done?" I'm like, "No, I work year round." So just have to figure out what the next step is. So I closed down shop for like a week, right? I'm like looking at 10 ornaments I have to work on this week. So yeah, I think ornaments may be one of those year-round things. We'll see.
I'll get some pictures from you, and next time in a couple weeks I'm doing a show with Carly from Club Cardio. I'll put some of the pictures of your things together for a little
Sure.
advertisement so people can see. Awesome. Well, there's the etsy.com/shop/Evie made gifts. And I double checked. I pulled it up and double checked to make sure I didn't get it wrong, send people to the wrong spot. All right, well, I'm going to pull you guys out of the stream for just a second and talk about the other one so I can pull up their things. And then when we come back, then we're going to talk a little bit more about the other things that we are going to have coming up, and a little bit more about like self-care, things like that. And that'll be the rest of our show. So I'll see you guys in just a second. All right. So, all right. The other, just what I was talking about, Club Cardio. Club Cardio is, you can go to clubcardiowithcarly.com. Club Cardio is awesome. Carly runs it at 105 East Front Street. And every Saturday at 10 o'clock on the weekends, we've got Club Cardio has basically a dance party. Modern positive music, get your groove on with people. There's no judgment. Don't judge yourself, don't judge others, and you're not allowed to judge Carly. I just did that out of order. I'm sorry, Carly. So she has a new rear party on Saturday, January 7th at 10 a.m. She has different themes for her different ones, but the certain times are giveaways, and they're super fun. So during those, it's kind of like a party, and she'll pull names out of a hat based on when you sign up. She puts your name in a hat and then pulls out things, and there are giveaways, and it's super fun. So please come on to Club Cardio. You can sign up at our website right there and join us, and it'll be a blast. All right. So then the other one that I wanted to bring up for everybody is nutritioncounselingcenter.com. This is related to Cedars. It's Center for Eating Disorder Recovery, and it's in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and also Nutrition Counseling Center. They're related, and there are not many places for eating disorder recovery in Michigan, and this place is amazing. And Patrizia Yezu, who's on our show during the holiday season or before holiday season, is owner of this. And there are many wonderful staff members there that do meal groups, intuitive eating groups, one of which is going to start mid-February, 7-week intuitive eating workshop that is amazing. So they have basically intuitive eating, if you don't know what it is learning to intuitively, through your intuition, learn what your body wants and needs, and feed your body based on what it needs and wants, picking up body cues, and learning your hunger cues, which are not always what you think they are. Basically not trying to stronghold your body into what society wants, or what you think it should do, but listening to your body. And so this course is 7 weeks and mid-February, so you can go to the website and get information on that. And in the description below in our YouTube video, I'll put a link to that flyer and website as well. And then they also are going to have, I believe, another meal group that is coming up. And so if you are interested in that information, you can get that information there as well. So I will that away. I'm going to bring the ladies back up, and we're going to talk about creativity, self-care, and we'll mention our Bloom workshops, but we'll just talk about self-care in general. And welcome back to the stream, Evie Murphy and Jaylynn Struth, council members from Muddy Lotus Recovery and survivors. So far, we've been talking about being authentic, being positive, but also being yourself and creating a community in order to do that and feel safe, being your authentic self. So speaking of community, our Year of You has the 365-day challenge, but it also is going to have other self-care focused events. We have our usual social media columns I mentioned Jay is going to do some prompts for gratitude out there that she's hoping people, we're trying to get more interaction in our website that are, we're going to hope that if you do our challenge, you tag us. If you do a post with your gratitude, or if you do any of the things that we're kind of challenging you to do, please tag us and share some of that with us. We'd love to hear from you with comments, or if you want to message us, that would be awesome too. I put on mine like hashtag 365 days of you, and that would be awesome, because then we can kind of see us coming together as a community and feel like we're not so alone. In each month, during each month of the year, my goal anyway is to have a Bloom workshop. And what that is creative arts. And it's creative arts therapy, just using creative arts, which can be movement, it can be actual art, it can be like plants and potting soil. And I'm thinking of this because there's the conservatory downtown and we have a good relationship with them. It can be cooking, it can be there's all sorts of things that we can do with that. But I mentioned skills like DBT skills, that's dialectical behavioral skills for emotional regulation and self-care, which is a big one. And in the year of you, we are hoping to instill a lot of these skills, and through Bloom workshops, that stands for Begin to Love Ourselves Once More. That's the perfect place to learn self-care and use creative arts. So what does self-care mean to you guys, and how has it been important as far as your regimen, like your daily regimen? I mean, I'm not looking for some like big epiphany moment. I mean, how do you do self-care on the daily? Because we're all busy. Evie, I'm going to start with you because you just told us all your million things that you have piled up back there, and I get it. That's me too. That's Jay, I'm sure. She's a college student. I mean, for sure, right?
Jay mentioned it earlier, and I think it was one of the easier things for me is end of the day, what was I doing for myself? So reading, that's kind of, but also being able to like disconnect, because I think we all do it. It's the end of the night and we're laying in bed, just aimlessly scrolling on our phone, and then it's midnight or whatever time it is. And where did that go? And so for me, it's disconnecting and being able to, to read. One thing that I'm hoping to do more, and I've got some fun stuff to hopefully help you with that, is journal more. Sometimes I'll color, like I love it. I have all the adult coloring books and things like that. But my family that knows me so well got me this badass affirmations book.
Yeah, I have that too.
So I got this for I got this so, and this one it's okay, it's funny, obviously. But when something that I loved became something that I do for a living, it did take that away from me being able to use that to decompress, as much. I did a little bit. It's actually funny. I was teaching my sons. Do you remember these friendship bracelets from when we were?
Yeah.
And so I have all boys, so I haven't had to really show anyone with that. I was learning to macrame, and then the boys were wanting to make, brother bracelets, and I was like, oh my gosh! So I did something that's different, and I think that's part of why I love being able to offer new things all the time. Is because then I'm picking up a new hobby and it's still fun. I mean, it's always fun, but it's fun when I'm doing something that's not crafty work, things like that. But that journal was hilarious. And then this is my big one. This is a huge, I don't know if you can see it. Nope, there. It's a mindfulness journal. I don't know which way, that way. And we'll see. I didn't know. I put it on my list, of, hey, this is something to try. It is huge. But it does, you focus on it. It only looks like it's like, maybe it's one every day. I don't know. And no, it is every day. So you go through all the different weeks of things like that. But I feel like being able to slow down and just take time to disconnect and recharge, or acknowledge what you did good for the day, what you can do differently, and things like that. but then reading, that's been my biggest, being able to just enjoy doing that and having time to do that. I don't know how people read more than I was able to read. Like one of the ladies was like, I read X amount of books. I'm like, I need sleep. I also need sleep. So, but yeah, that's I'm painting my nails too. That's sometimes like, I don't get to do it nearly as often, but just those little things that are just for you, just for me. They feel like self-care, and they don't feel, I've moved past feeling like they're frivolous. Like, no, they're good. It's important to take time for you, whatever that is, and just go with it.
I love the tangible ideas. Number one, that's what we're looking for. And number two, there's going to be 2 and 3. There are 2 things you brought up that were really important. Number one, that you don't want to do something, like, don't give yourself something to do that is that you're trying to do self-care. I've been with a lot of people that, especially for New Year's resolution, like, I'm going to do self-care, so I'm going to read more. And it turns out I hate reading. Or like, I'm going to do this to take care of myself, and I really don't like it. So really taking the time to explore, what do I like? So that's some of what we're going to try to do. We have, for Muddy Lotus, I do, it's through Honor Yourself. It's a separate thing, but I do coaching. And that's one of the things that I learned through intentional peer support, is that, like, taking that time to find out what is really important to you and what you like. Because sometimes in that life balance pie chart, like, you don't really realize, where you're spending all your time, but also, even when you think you're doing things because you enjoy them, maybe you don't necessarily know. So just taking that moment and really finding out what you enjoy and spending your time where you want to. And yeah, so that was one thing. And then the other thing that you brought up was, that list of ideas and turning off your phone and just that quiet time, and everything like that. I think that's really good advice. And I think that can go a long way. That self-care idea. I'll pull out my little box there in a minute, but I'll come back to that. So I don't want to take up any more time. So Jay, before I do that, go tell me a little bit about your self-care techniques.
Yeah. So for me, like, self-care is just making sure, like, you're understanding and paying attention to all aspects of yourself. Like, it's not just emotional. For me, it's like, physical, emotional, mental, it's spiritual. Like, it's just making sure that you're taking the time out of your day or your week to make sure that you're where you want to be in all aspects of your life. And I think it's so easy to overlook that because, sometimes we're only focused on one thing at a time. It's a lot of the time it's our physical health. It's easy just to look at that instead of everything else. And so that's kind of what I've focused on. Evie kind of hit it on the head with all the things she's doing, is kind of what I'm focusing on too. But sleep health has been a really big one for me this year, like transitioning to like living on my own and, making my own kind of schedule is different. And so I really focused on trying to make a like bedtime kind of like self-care schedule, like, brush your teeth, do this, like, it's just fell. But yeah, I took a class called Healthy Living in my first semester of college, and it really opened up like the mindfulness thing and just about habits and routines. And that's really big for me. So my sleep health has been really important because I realized I set the thing on my phone, like little sleep thing. Like I don't get notifications after a certain time. And that was so helpful. Like I wasn't picking up my phone to look at it every, 10, 15 seconds just because I heard a notification. So the sleep, the disconnecting, like I said in the beginning, I'm journaling, trying to read and journal at least 30 minutes before bed instead of watching TV or, getting that blue light that you keep seeing in my glasses exposed to you. But those have been the main two things. And then, like I said, just kind of throughout the day, if I am like not forcing myself to do things I want to do, like, I don't need to do this just because I feel like I need to do self-care, like you were saying. It's finding something you can enjoy, and it shouldn't be a chore. Like doing self-care should be something that you want to do. It shouldn't be like, oh man, I didn't take care of myself today, so it's kind of looking at it in that way. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on this year.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm so glad you brought up sleep.
Yeah.
Because we don't think about that. And a lot of us, our to-do list gets to be so big, and especially students. I'm taking a college course myself right now and shoved that into my schedule. And that just becomes, one more thing to add into the stack. And so we think that we just have an endless amount of hours. And
Yeah.
if something gets cut, it's going to be sleep.
All the scientists say that sleep's important, and I think we don't actually realize it.
They don't know what they're talking about.
You do need it.
Yeah. And I think this break, I think I've realized that, because I'm a little more rested now. And the other thing that I just wanted to bring up too, to go along, so we've had the making sure that you're doing things that you want to do. We have sleep, we have taking time for yourself, shutting off the social media and the noise like that, and then eating well. I'm working with Paula's house right now, and I know that we do a lot with eating disorder recovery, and I mentioned meal groups with Cedars. We're going to be starting to try to get some kind of meal group starting, because times of transitions, regardless of whether you have an eating disorder or you don't, times of transitions can be hard for anybody. And you mentioned, Jay, setting routines from your healthy living class, and that can be really important. And then Evie, everybody mentioned the community that we're talking about. So a lot of times, just having a group of people to do things with, whether it be fitness, whether it be meals, whether it be those intentions. So we would always, it was brought to my attention once to do morning commitments. And I have a group of friends that, especially if things are getting very stressful, or for them as well, we will contact each other and say, let's start up our morning commitments again. And we will just text each other morning commitments, and so that it doesn't take anything. And basically it's what's one good thing that happened yesterday, what's something that I want to get done today, what's one word that's going to be my mantra for the day. It's like 4 things, I can't even remember, but I'll look it up later. But it's basically an abridged version of kind of a longer thing. And that intention, just setting that intention for the day and saying it to somebody, just kind of sets the tone for the day. And eating right, sleeping, setting an intention for the day, having a routine, those are the kinds of things that we will cut off when we run out of time. And so if everybody can kind of keep that in mind with the new year, and take care of yourselves. Those are the types of things at Muddy Lotus Recovery, at our Bloom workshops. If you are interested in doing coaching with me, or coming to any of our workshops, or visiting our website, we are going to be focusing on this year. That's what the year of you is. That's what we're going to be all about. It's not selfish. That was another thing that you mentioned, Evie. I think you said something about selfish. It just came to my head. People are always thinking, if I say self-care, that's selfish.
Yeah.
And I know that's a big thing. I'm happy that out in the world right now, that's been a thing that people are starting to take down, that self-care is okay. And taking time for yourself before you can take care of other people, because that has to happen. So I'm glad that's getting to be kind of an okay thing now.
Yeah, especially, not to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
It's especially like you have people who are always not saying just you, but there's people who are always so wanting to help everyone else and do things for everyone else. You're a mom, want to take care of your kids first, and it just becomes so easy to be like, oh, I'm helping them, so that's what needs to happen. It needs to get done. So it's just making sure that you realize, like, it's not selfish, and it's important that to take care of yourself, because everything else, you can't take care of everyone else if you're not taking care of yourself as well.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. And on that note, I think that that's all the time that we're going to take today. But I know that look for on Muddy Lotus a Bloom workshop coming. I believe it's going to be the last Saturday in January. I almost have all the details worked out, but I just don't want to say that it's going to be somewhere that it's not going to be. So, I know what we're going to do with that workshop. We're going to create a self-care box. And we're going to use all of our senses at that workshop. So that's what we're going to be doing.
That's fun.
I can show you, I'm not even going to like dig through the box, but look at my self-care box. This is like some tripping box, right? Yeah.
That is
This
cute.
is like outfitted box right there. Okay. So, and then just keeping in mind, everybody, be your authentic self and take care of yourself. And then taking that moment, it is not selfish and it is not bragging to, and it is not fake to take 30 seconds to just say one thing that's awesome about you every day. And then please join our community and feel like you have the security and the safety to be yourself in this community. Where can you do that? You can do that at, I'm going to pull you guys out of the stream now. Don't think I'm kicking you out. Stay backstage. Okay. Okay. You can join our community at www.muddylotusrecovery.org. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Muddy Lotus Recovery. And you can find me by emailing me, Alison at muddylotusrecovery.org. So I hope that you enjoyed our talk about New Year's and about the year of you. Join us in a couple weeks with Carly from Club Cardio and the importance of movement and the body and feeling everything, feeling your body and being comfortable with yourself. And until then, have a happy new year and we'll see you soon.